It's time to brace yourself for a walk that may seem more than a little eerie. A stroll in a graveyard, not for the faint-hearted, you might think. But don't worry, there's nothing sinister or scary about Moscow's Novodevichy cemetery. In fact, it's one of the capital's biggest tourist magnets. But let's first take a look at another major landmark here, Novodevichy Convent. A cluster of sparkling domes behind high walls and battlements, Novodevichy, or New Maidens Convent, is perhaps the capital's best-known monastery. It was founded in 1524 by Tsar Vasily III to mark the capture of the city of Smolensk from the Lithuanians. Designed as a fortress, the convent guarded the southern outskirts of medieval Moscow. From the outset, Novodevichy was special among Moscow's monasteries, becoming a place of refuge for noble women and a prison for rebellious royals. Little remains of its original structure. Most of the current buildings date from the 1680s, when the convent was renovated by Peter the Great's half-sister, the ambitious Sophia. Ironically, having lost in a bitter power struggle for the throne, Sophia herself ended up confined here. The convent's oldest structure is the huge five-domed 16th century Cathedral of Our Lady of Smolensk, built at the time of the convent's founding. The architectural marvel had a narrow escape in 1812 during the war with the French, when Napoleon ordered the entire complex be destroyed. The story goes that some brave nuns extinguished the fuses, leading to barrels of gunpowder just in time. In 1922, the Bolsheviks closed the convent, turning it first into a museum of women's emancipation and then into a history and art museum. Yet Novodevichy was one of the first to be returned to the church as a reward for backing the war effort. In 1945, services here resumed. As soon as the convent was founded, a cemetery was opened on its grounds, which immediately became a burial place for noble families, feudal lords and church officials. In 1898 it was expanded beyond the convent walls and rapidly became Moscow's most prestigious burial site. One of the first famous Muscovites to be buried here was 19th century short story writer and playwright Anton Chekhov. That's the grave of Russia's iconic writer Nikolai Gogol, and this one is of opera singer Fyodor Shalyapin. During Soviet times, the cemetery became Russia's most high-profile. Yet you'll only find the grave of one Soviet leader here, Nikita Khrushchev. That's because Soviet leaders were traditionally buried alongside the Kremlin wall in Red Square, except Khrushchev, that is. Removed from power in 1964, he died 7 years later and was denied a state funeral and a place next to his predecessors. And since the fall of the USSR, it's this cemetery that's been used for the most symbolically significant burials. Russia's first president, Boris Yeltsin, was laid to rest here in 2007. Dotted with small chapels and large sculpted monuments, Novodevichy Cemetery feels like a huge open-air museum, and its combination of thrill and history makes it well worth a visit. Svetlana Kurakina, Primetime Russia, RT.